the wine show would like to bring you a wine tasting with the stars featuring Matthew Good, Matthew Rees, James Purefoy and Dominic West. They would like to bring you that, but they can't. Instead, you get me and Dino, the wine dachshund here, and, well, wines from my friends. We're going to have much more fun here in the privacy of my own wine attic. Now then, Dino, down you go. You can join us a little bit later on. Hello! Welcome to the Wine Show at Home. We are here to hopefully lift your souls, gladden hearts, and enjoy a couple of glasses of wine. What we're going to do is, every night, 7 o'clock, we're going to go and get in touch with one of our wine merchanting friends, and indeed some winemaking friends. We'll go and get 3 bottles, we'll taste them, we'll let you know sometimes when they're coming up, so you can go and buy them yourselves. And we're going to feature wines from across the country. We're going to really focus on wines from independent merchants, those merchants who are the backbone of wine lovers across the UK. Today we're going to start in Didsbury in Manchester, home of the RSPB and MoneySavingExpert.com's Martin Lewis. There you go. It's also the home to Kate Goodman. You remember Kate? She was a presenter on BBC Food and Drink. She's a great friend of ours. She has a brilliant wine business in Manchester, Altrincham, Macclesfield, West Didsbury and Warrington. Brilliant wine shops. And she sent us 3 bottles, and she thought these are 3 bottles that will help people out. They're the sort of things that we would like you to enjoy. Now, we are also asking for your questions. People sending in questions. We've already had some. I'm going to ask a few of them. I've got some down here. Let's have a look. What do we have? So, I'm going to go and answer one, because actually there's one that's very relevant. Tricia College. Now, Tricia, you've been a follower of the Wine Show for ages, and you say, is it a good time to stop drinking alcohol considering the state of the world, brackets, asking for a friend? Well, for your friend, Tricia, you know what? I did think about this. We thought about this quite a lot before we went into the show. What's the psalm? Wine gladdens the soul, oil shines the skin, and bread gives us strength. If you it's terrible, I can't remember the Psalms. If you remember the Psalms better than me, go and get in touch. Tell us actually what that line is, but it's wine gladdens the soul. It is a thing, it's a sucker. It's something that gives us hope in a tough time. And I think enjoyed responsibly, it is something that is it's helping people out across the country. So hopefully we can go and share some brilliant wines from outstanding people and help everybody through this. And we're enjoying them at home as well. Amongst the things we'll be doing, we'll be trying wines. We'll also be going and talking about some brilliant projects, particularly for people in hospital, social care services, NHS, and people in the hospitality industry. Bear in mind, we're not eating out, and so the hospitality industry is having a tough time. And we are going to do our bit where we can. Might not be very much, but where we can, to go and give people a hand. Now, I'm going to start with these wines, because we've got this, and in fact, there's one here that it is from C.W. Maguire. He says, I thought the wine show story about the Loire Estate's World War II wine efforts was amazing. How do you find the stories you tell over the course of the series? Well, funnily enough, the first wine that we've been sent by Reserve Wines is Domaine de Landreau, Crémant de Loire. And it's from the Loire Valley, where we filmed that episode. Wait till you see what I've got here. Aha, that is a sparkling wine glass. You know what? I don't come up with the stories, thank goodness. We have the most amazing team. It's led by Melanie Jappi, the series producer, who comes up with extraordinary ideas. We sit and we chat and we talk through them. Sometimes I come up with something mad and they go, no, we can't possibly do that. Other times they go, we could do that, but maybe not the way you're describing. We then have Florence and Claire and other Claire and Charlotte and the huge team, Adam, and they will sit, chew over the ideas, research them, and there's always at the heart of the stories, and this is one of the things about wine, we'll see it with these, there are universal stories about people and the challenges that we face. At the moment, there are wine estates. How do you bring in grapes when you are meant to be isolating? There are some estates who have managed it. There are some who haven't. And so that's how we go and dig around the stories. And we then craft them into a TV series, which I can't do, but they can brilliantly. And then I get sent away to go and drink them along with Amelia and Jager and the boys, and we have lots of fun. So here we go. This is totally the wrong sort of glass to drink sparkling wine from. But you know what? Right at the minute, who cares? This is a fabulous piece of Murano glassware. This is from my grandparents. It's covered in little putty, little fat angel figures dancing around and all picked out and painted. And the bowl here is resting on the tail of a dolphin. I think, I remember these as a child. My grandparents used to get them out, and they almost never come out. But you know what? Right at the minute, I'm going to enjoy. It's not the best for tasting wine because the aroma sort of just dissipates. Anyway, let's have a sniff. That is gorgeously fruity. This is not champagne. So this is from the Loire, so it's further away. It's made from different grapes. Although it's made in the same way, it's made from Chenin Blanc and Cabernet Franc. So red Cabernet Franc, white Chenin Blanc. And it gives it more appley, curranty freshness, if you like. It's really crisp, bright, fruity flavour. If you find champagne maybe a bit too tart, this isn't so much tart as crisp and like a Granny Smith apple. Oh, it's gorgeous. You'll love that. Well done, Kate. That's amazing stuff. Thank you very much for sending that down. Nice bottles of fizz. Look out for Crémant. Crémant de Loire, like this. You can also get Crémant d'Alsace, Crémant de Bourgogne, Crémant de Limoux, which is very appley from further south. Really great wines. Great value. Usually quite a bit less expensive than champagne. And lovely, bright, crunchy, fresh, fruity wines. And you know, bubbles always lift us up a little bit. Whilst I just enjoy that, and this, I'm going to put that down here just for the moment so you can enjoy my ridiculous stemware. I'm going to have a look for a couple more questions. Thank you very much. Gary Charnock. Oh, hello, Gary. No, Gary. What is regarded as the world's oldest wine? And do we still harvest from these ancient vines? It's much disputed, certainly by Armenians, but Georgia probably has the best claim. And there is a wine bar in Tbilisi. Go, because it's really good. It's called 8,000 Vintages, and it's because they've been making wine for about 8,000 years. It's quite a nice story. So an awful long time ago, we know that they've been making wine there for about 8,000 years, and the vines will almost certainly have changed a bit over the last 8,000 years, but there are some very ancient grape varieties. There's some really, really old ones that you get in Georgia and Armenia, but also places like Israel. I had some Israeli wine, some of the grapes were around 2,000 years old, something like that. Who else have we got? Kangura, have any Western Australian wines taken your fancy? Lots. From all over the Franklin Estate in the Franklin River make brilliant Rieslings. Vas Felix, I've always loved those wines, they're really nice. McHenry Hernan, David Hernan's estate. David Hernan is the man who created Cloudy Bay, which you may have tried, who's an absolute legend. He's a brilliant guy. And I tell you what, it's down here somewhere. This is my sort of wine bookshelf. There it is. The Way It Was. That is a great book about Western Australia and the making of the vineyards. So it tells a story about people like Vanya Cullen, who's lovely. She's a great biodynamic winemaker. And it tells the story of David Honan, and they cleared the gum tree roots in their vineyard by blowing them up with explosives. And they're all these old sort of Vietnam-era boots, and they blew them all up. Anyway, it turned out, although it was mad at the time, it completely destroyed this infestation, and they were never affected by it. It's sort of odd stories, but he's really good. Xanadu, I like. Xanadu, sort of revived winery. There's lots of good stuff. Very clean, clarion fruit sort of flavour. Madfish, people like that. So it's worth digging around because you've got some great ones. Larry Cherubino wines, really gorgeous, quite adventurous winemaking. He makes some lovely stuff around there. Right, keep moving on. What else have we got? I'll go and put this mag glass to one side. We have a Fetească Regală. I've opened these bottles before, so that it didn't cause sort of fuss and nonsense. This is a screw cap. So this is from Romania. Have you ever tried Romanian wine? I went there in the early 90s, just after the revolution. Let's have a look at this. Oh, beautiful. Like gold to airy thinness beat, as John Donne, I think it was, might have had it. Is it Donne or Ben Jonson? Anyway, it is beautiful sort of golden colour. Now, Fetească Regală means the Royal Maiden. They have sort of mad names. They have rather nice names in Romania. If you go to Portugal, they have sort of They have some nice names, but they've got Bastardo, Ashgonakal, which means dog strangler, and there's one, I won't try and pronounce it, but it means effectively fly excrement. Whereas this is much nicer, Royal Maiden. If you are a big fan of things like Viognier, Marsanne, Grenache, White Grenache, ripe, fruity styles of wine, apricotty, stone fruit wines, you are going to love this. It is gorgeous. Still crisp, it's still got real freshness to it, quite mouth-watering at the end, but it's got this ripe, stone fruity, apricot, peach character to it. A little bit floral. That is lovely. It would go with quite hearty dishes. That's the sort of thing you want, you know. Quite a nice glass of wine with dinner in your home, tough times. That is really lovely. Now, I said, every time we come on, we're going to go and try and find interesting initiatives across the country that are helping people out. Here is today's. I've printed it off. Commit your commute. Probably see it better there. Your commute can still go somewhere. This comes up. A friend of mine, Dan, and his team came up with this. Brilliant. Hello, Dan. Hope you're watching. You can give your commute to Hospitality Action, and it will go to support people in the hospitality industry who aren't necessarily shut down, furloughed, sitting at home, haven't got much to do. I talk to a lot of sommeliers. It's a tough time for sommeliers, service staff, chefs, restaurant owners, and somebody like me who used to supply restaurants eats really, really hard. I went online just before I started filming, and I've given a week of my commute because I've been at home for a week, and you can do it really easily. It goes straight to hospitality workers. So commit your commute. If you know something like this, let us know. Give us a shout, and we'll go and get it on. Also, remember to keep in touch. What you can do, get through Twitter, Instagram, at WineShowTV or at Joe Fattorini. I'll go and put them through as well. And sign up for our newsletter. What we'll do is we'll gather up all these wines that we've been trying, and we'll give you all the details of them, and we'll send it out as a newsletter once a week with different wine merchants from different parts of the country. I'll tell you, the sort of information we'll have in is that this Crémant de Loire, £15, a much better value than champagne, and really nice and cheery and fruity. That's what we need right now. Romanian white from £10.50. That's lovely. That is great wine. I'll be enjoying that some more. And we've also now got a juicy Sangiovese, £11. I'll tell you something about this, right? I get these wines in, and it's a Sangiovese from Tuscany. I've tried loads of Sangiovese from Tuscany. And I thought, all right, it'll be nice. A bit like Chianti. Give it a whirl. However, I then looked it up, and it's called Calappiano. Turns out Calappiano is one of the last grand estates designed by the Dukes of Medici. Remember, Melanie, the series producer, is watching right now because she knows this is my bugbear. It's pronounced Medici, not Medici. It's an exception. Medici. But Medici, appropriately, means doctors in Italian. And we all went out a couple of nights ago and applauded for our doctors and nurses and social care staff. So this is one for all of you in the NHS. Thank you very much indeed. Big round of applause. And I've got some methods actually later on for going and sharing these around with members of the NHS, but unopened. The magic of technology. We'll be doing that later on this week. So it's made by the Medici. Now, it gets even better. Comes from a province called Montalbano. I know what you're thinking. Inspector Montalbano, if I look sort of policey. All right, please yourselves. And in Montalbano, there is a town called Vinci. Guess who came from Vinci? It's called Leonardo. So Leonardo da Vinci. Now, interestingly, Leonardo da Vinci, one of the world's earliest wine writers, because he wrote about Vinci and about how there is a special fossilised stone called, I think it's called a Nicky, and it's a fossilised shellfish, and he said it gives the wines of this area a particular elegance. Shall we see? And it certainly gives them a beautiful cherry character. It's quite sort of sour cherry in a way, but with currants as well. It's quite brightly fruity, so this is more fruity than you get in a Chianti Classico. It's still dry, it's a bit spicy. It's quite smart spaghetti bolognese wine, but you can, or you can have it with steak, or you could have it with roasted vegetables, with all sorts actually. That is a juicy, chunky, reasonably easy drinking, ripe Italian red. Brilliant for drinking at any time whilst you're sitting at home. We're not going out, enjoy drinking out at home. That is a lovely wine. Now, here's the thing. Leonardo wrote about this in a thing called the Codex Leicester. I don't think, it wasn't because he was from Leicester. Claire from the wine show, one of our producers, is going and listening to this because she comes from Leicester. And the Codex Leicester was sold in the early 90s, mentioning this little wine tasting note, for over $30 million to Bill Gates. The equivalent of more than $50 million today. Some of the most expensive wine writing in the world. So who knows, maybe in a few hundred years, my own tasting notes will be bought by a tech multi-billionaire and philanthropist of the future for millions and millions of dollars. But at the moment, they are not. They are free here with you. In fact, if you want to go and see about a tech sort of futuristic billionaire, a bit of brilliant viewing, watch Altered Carbon, featuring the wine show's very own James Purefoy as the richest man in the world who lives in a funny tower, and he's sort of like a Bill Gates of the future, where I'm sure he is going and buying up things like the Codex Leicester. Right, a few more questions before we have to wrap this all up. What else do we have here? Chris Goldie. Hello, Chris. What's the most unusual vessel Joe has drunk from? And does wine taste better when wearing a hat? Well, we can test the second question, because I've got a hat. There may be quite a lot of hat wearing in these, because I quite like wearing a hat. So, swirl. Undoubtedly. Getting extra nuances from that. Best thing to do when you're tasting wine is wear a hat. I'll put that back up there for the moment. The most unusual thing, I wonder if you know actually, you may have heard this before. This is absolutely true. I've drunk wine out of somebody's false leg. It's like the socket bit that goes just under the knee. And it's a totally true story. You can look him up actually. Look up Jonathan Warnickan. And he is the world's first, possibly still only, para ice mile swimmer. He swam a mile in freezing waters. That's from 0 degrees, 1 degree, a couple of degrees maybe in the sea. And he's only got one leg, and he did it. We were school friends together. So it was amazing characters, John T. If you're watching John T, hello. He does brilliant work for amputees and in sort of Paralympic work. He's a great supporter of cold water swimming, the Ice Mile Association. All round brilliant guy, great wine fan, so I'm sure he probably is watching. Yeah, we were at a party, and for reasons that I won't explain, we were all naked, and Jonty took his leg off, and we all decided to drink from it. I don't recommend it. In fact, I can't recommend it not enough, because ideally you should wash the socket bit, and a number of us are quite unwell after going and doing it. But what's the strangest thing you've ever drunk from? Let us know. Ask us your questions, and we'll tell people about things. Tell us what the weirdest thing is you've ever drunk wine from. Lord Byron, it was a human skull. What was that line? You lived, you laughed, you loved like me. And I can't remember the rest of it. But anyway, it's lines inscribed upon a human skull, and apparently he drank Burgundy out of it. What other questions do we have down here? How many vineyards roughly have you visited? What was your favourite and why? No idea. Absolutely no idea. Certainly hundreds, possibly thousands. And it's really hard to have a favourite, if I'm honest. Just because, every one of them brings something special. But, the last one was Quinta da Boa Esperança in Portugal. And it's owned by a friend of mine, a guy called Artur. Might even have his wines on a bit later on. Hello, Artur, if you're watching. Love Artur. Gailey says, I don't like red wine. It's understandable, Gailey. Some people don't. But love white. Good. Can you suggest a white wine to go with beef or steak, please? Can't wait for the next series of the wine show. So can we, can't we? And it'll be out in a month or two, something like that. So I don't want to preempt too much. Not in the far too distant future. You know what you can, Gailey? You can, if you like quite oaky whites, white Rioja, even if you don't like them on their own, they're very good with food and steak. So things like oaky Chardonnays can work quite well with steak. But I actually really like Champagne. And it's made from red grapes very often. And Champagne or maybe not English fizz because it's a bit too acidic, but yeah, some of the sort of riper, more muscular champagnes you want to sort of treat yourself to. And a Vilmar, if you're looking for a small house, or Bollinger, some of these sort of slightly oakier styles. They're very good. What else do we have? Stuart Griffiths says, James Purefoy, Matthew Rees or Matthew Good? Question mark. And why? That's terrible. It's like choosing your favourite child. Sparkling wine with Goody, because he's kind of sparkling. Burgundy with Rees, because he's earthy. And then I shall sort of sit quietly in a leather armchair with James Purefoy. And we'll get very, very drunk. No, we won't. We will drink responsibly. But that is probably the order in which I would go and drink with them. With Dominic West, who's joining us, I'm not sure yet. Should you decant vintage champagne? Some people do. I don't, actually, because I think if it's old enough to be sort of weird, it loses its bubbles quite a bit. There is a decanting question here, because actually Gary Neal says, is it worth opening a bottle before drinking? No, it's totally pointless. If you think it needs opening up a bit, lean out of shot. I have prepared this earlier. Get a decanter, decant from the bottle into the decanter, then pour from the decanter back in the bottle, double decanting, and that will open a wine's aromas, and it will, if you like, let it stretch its legs a little bit. Tried a wine just the other day, and it was totally different after it just had a little bit of time in splashing from one to the other. It just sort of gave it a bit of room. It could kind of flex itself. So that is what I would do. Just pulling the cork out doesn't make any difference at all. I mean, perhaps, you know, the 2 millimetres at the top, that's all the difference it really makes. So, those are a few of the questions. There's maybe one other. Should we go and have another thing? Dr. Tristan Blake in Brisbane, Australia. Brilliant, we've got people coming from there. Can anything be done with grapes picked soon after bushfire within the region? Is this a matter of quantity of exposure? Is it an absolute no, or can some varieties get blended? I would defer to some winemakers, but I have spent quite a bit of time with, I remember it was Styx Dolan, made wine, Styx wines down in Victoria. And I remember talking to him. There are things that you can go and do but it's quite sort of invasive winemaking to sort of strip out that smoky taint, and then you can use them as blending components. But it is it's really, really tough. Smoke taint sticks and it sits there, and it is very, very hard. You know, there will be Australian winemakers who will have had a really tough time dealing with smoke taint. It's one of the challenges of winemaking. So there's not a lot you can go and do. People do sometimes find ways of treating them effectively so that they're not as tainted, and then you can kind of back blend with it. But it tends not to make really fine vintages. There was a winery I once sold, and one vintage was quite smoky, and people quite liked it in its sort of way. And then the next year they all said, "Don't taste anything like that wine." Turned out it was a non-smoky vintage. Any bits else? What else do we have? Have I been to Peru? They have awesome wine there, Beliasim. I would love to go to Peru. I've never been, and I'd like to go and try the wine. And Belia says, stay safe. You too. So remember, send us lots of questions. You stay safe, stay at home, enjoy wine responsibly. It'll gladden your heart. Give us lots of questions. Sign up for the newsletter, so wineshow.com. We will go and collate all this information. For those of you up in the northwest, get in touch with Reserve Wines. So we've got a £15 a Crémant Loire, gorgeous wine. We've got a £10.50 Romanian white. Who'd have thunk it? That's really good stuff. And a juicy Sangiovese at £11 that Leonardo da Vinci would have liked. I hope to see you all again very soon. You look after yourselves, and come back tomorrow evening. Thanks very much for joining us. Bye.